Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Florian. I'm a developer. I'm working on this tool called depencencies together with Jan, who was opening up the conference. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but I really want to talk about the idea behind it and like why we think updating dependencies continuously and all the time and automatically is a much better approach than waiting forever and then having to do it all at once. So as a developer, one thing that I really enjoyed doing is building tooling and building tooling for our team or building tooling for the customer success team, like making small improvements to our process. And you can build small CI tools or bigger web tools that help something. But I really always made me really happy to kind of build something that made something a little bit nicer. So what I want to talk about is updating dependencies and how we can apply that approach to that topic. But let's start with some show of hands, please. Who here is updating dependencies at all? Okay, that's everyone. Who is doing that regularly? Like weekly, monthly, it should be regularly, but yeah, so that's good, 2/3 maybe. And who's using any kind of tool for that, be like a service or like something self-written? Okay, so that's like 20% maybe. Cool. So why do we even bother updating dependencies? You could just leave it all there, and forget about it. I think if you ask that question to everyone, or when I ask that question, security always is the one topic that comes up, right? It's the most obvious one, and it's the easiest one to draw on. What is the security vulnerability in any of the code that ships with your dependencies? How do you find out about that? And how easy will it be to deploy a fix? And that's really the goal of updating dependencies for security reasons, is to minimize that time it takes to roll out that security patch. And with all that stuff that's going on the internet nowadays, you're really in a race against automatic scripts that look for the right Rails version and automatically attack it, right? It's not anymore like no one cares about my little web app. No one will attack it. If there's a known vulnerability in Rails, people will find out and they're on BitTorrent trackers on your nice little app. So really it minimizes the time it takes it out. Another thing why we're doing dependencies update is that actually it is a topic where it gets harder and harder the longer you wait. I'm sure most of you maybe had to take over an old Rails app and no one looked at it for quite a long time. And if you run bundle update, or you want to just update a single thing, and you can't update that one because it depends on an old version of Rack or stuff like that. So you basically have to update everything at once because it's all a web, it's all connected, all the dependencies have minimum version requirements, and that all kind of has this huge web of things in Ruby. And you basically have to update everything at once, which of course is a huge risk. You don't know, will it go right, will it go wrong, what will happen if I deploy that? So there's security, but I think there's also other reasons for updating dependencies. What are those? One thing I kind of like to call code base hygiene, or when you talk to developers, I think if you have an actively maintained project, it feels kind of nice to have everything up to date. It feels like I'm caring about this. There's a team that cares about this code base, about this app, and cares about maintaining it and working on it. Of course, you also get new updates or new versions of libraries because stuff gets better, stuff gets faster, they fix bugs, there's maybe a new feature you want to use in your app. Of course, there's always the rare exception where something gets worse, right? Like performance gets worse, or there's something that they're changing something. But I think we should assume that every library maintainer really wants to get this stuff to be better, right? So we update to get more news to make our code but also better by applying those updates. So what's painful now about updating dependencies? The first one is we've got time for that, right? I think the one thing I've seen over and over again is this is so easy to kind of not do. There's always something more important. There's always the feature, there's a deadline for that feature, there's the PR launch, everything has to be done for that, and you kind of forget about it. It's so easy to not do this. I think another thing is also interesting, when do you do that, and also who is doing it? And I've seen a lot of time that it's always this person that updates dependencies. No one really ever cares about it, and he's doing it on a Friday afternoon when there's nothing else to do, and you kind of don't want to start something bigger. So it's not really part of our development process, right? There's not like a Scrum task updating dependencies or whatever tool you use. Like, it's very rare to see that really in your process. Another thing that I kind of do, like conceptually, or like it would be really nice to only update dependencies individually, right? Like you do that one update, and you run the tests, and you see if it breaks or fails, and then you kind of have some confidence you can deploy it. What's a bit annoying about this is, like with most bigger apps, your tests take maybe 10 minutes, if you're lucky, maybe half an hour. So you apply the update, you push that to a branch, it runs, you have to wait for it, you start something else, you forget about it, and kind of like the feedback loop is not very good. So you tend to update a lot of things at once that kind of seem related maybe, and kind of have a bigger batch size with a lot more stuff going on at once. Another thing that's actually surprisingly hard is figuring out what changed in a new version. Like, you have to figure out that from that gem, where's the GitHub repo for that? Do they use a changelog MD or a history MD? They write it in the README, in the wiki, they have a website maybe. So there's actually a lot of things where you kind of want to look at, and in most cases there's no changelog. You have to look through the commits yourself to figure out, is there anything that's risky for us? So that's actually surprisingly hard. So upgrading dependencies is really pretty boring, right? Like, it's not really a lot of fun, and it's also a pretty thankless job. Your CEO is not gonna, at the Christmas party, looking back at the year, it's not gonna say you did a really good job upgrading dependencies, because it's part of your job, but no one will ever. It will only ever be visible if you do something wrong, right? Or you forget about it and there's a problem because of it. So it's a pretty good task to automate. And it's a pretty good task to do continuously all the time, or in the background a little bit, and kind of have it running, but not be too much ceremony around it, but also not too little. So I want to talk about DebFu. I don't really want to make this only like there's other options available. There's Greenkeeper and JavaScript. There's some open source tools, and the idea is always the same. And I want to show you what we're doing at DebFu, but you can also apply that in other contexts and with other tools. So the first thing we do is GitHub pull requests. So instead of notifying you with a new version with an email, or like you have a dashboard where there's a red number, we really believe that if you get a pull request with the update, right, in your gem file and gem file lock, that's a much better way to put it, because that's where your workflow usually is already if you're using GitHub. And it's a much nicer way to put it, because that's where your work is happening and your code is happening. So it's not like something you go to, or they send you an email, and then you check it out, and they still have to do manual work. And the most important part is we want you to make informed decisions with that GitHub pull request. So we put everything in the pull request that you need to know to make that decision. And actually the most important part is a GitHub pull request usually triggers a build already, right? And the test run of your project together with the dependency updates will give you a really good idea how risky it is to apply that. There's a lot of information in that, and maybe that's actually is not covered by tests, so there's still a lot of risk in it, but you kind of can judge from that information. And then the one thing we really believe in is that pain is better in small doses. And doing this continuously and all the time, and like one gem at a time, and maybe with a small version jump, is actually less work than waiting half a year and doing it all at once. And not like not just pure time-wise, but it's really a lot less effort, a lot less stuff to think about, and don't have to read 20 versions and then change a lot to figure out what changed. So we really believe in that. So what we're really aiming to do with DebFu and it's kind of give you a lightweight process, right? A lightweight process for your team that kind of helps you do updates. So how does DebFu work, and kind of how does this whole workflow look like? So first of all, as I said, with the pull requests, right now it only works with GitHub. So if you're using GitLab or something else that at the moment that doesn't work yet. You can actually use, with GitHub, you can actually install what they call GitHub apps now, which are a lot better than the old WARF integrations, where you basically had to give us permission, where you have to give third parties permission to all your repos at once. Now you can actually say, on this organization, I only want to give this one repo, or only enable this one repository. What we then do is kind of like similar to other services like Gymnasium and stuff like that. You kind of just show you where you are, right? What is outdated? Is there any security vulnerabilities in any of your gems? What's the general state of things? To kind of give you an overview. When it gets interesting, then what we then do is kind of send you pull requests for all the stuff that is outdated. Or if you're already up to date, when a new version comes in, we send you a pull request. What we do is we kind of try to be very careful about this. So we're not going to send you 50 pull requests if you have 50 outdated gems, right? We kind of limit it and kind of trickle it down so as fast as you can kind of merge them or you want to merge them. This is how a pull request looks like. So we pull in like what version you're on, what is the new version, and then we kind of at the bottom try to give you the links to the repo, to the changelog. If they're using GitHub releases, there's the release notes in it. I have a more detailed example here with Faraday. So it pulls in the text from the release, and it actually also figures out all the commits that went into the version you're on versus the version that got released. So the full diff basically is linked up and shown in here, which kind of also would enable you to do something like a lightweight code review on the update if you really want to go through all that stuff. If there's a security update, we also kind of make this pull request a bit more loud, so you kind of notice maybe you should really look at this one quicker than the other ones. And we also send you those like independently what state your repo is in, so we kind of try to make sure like you will get this one. So maybe just one more on the security updates. Like there is a difference between security updates and the other updates, right? Like you do pull requests and updates so that you're up to date in the state of your repo to enable you to do the security updates. So it's actually, you could also just do the security updates, you know, like I don't care about all the other ones, just send me these ones, but you tend to get a lot of conflicts with bundler and stuff like that you get version conflicts because everything else is not up to date. So now you might be thinking, isn't that a lot of PRs, right? Like, isn't that, maybe you think like pull requests are for my normal, like my feature work, it's where we collaborate. Isn't it going to be like spammed totally with pull requests, right? And as I said before, we kind of put a limit on it to only open 7 at a time. So you never will get more than 7. But more importantly than that, or like if you merge them, how does your workload look like, right? Like if you have a Rails app and you kind of run it for a while, how many pull requests will you actually get? So this is one of a bigger Rails app where I looked at these stats. So they have like, it's quite a big Rails app, it's like 120 direct dependencies in the gem file, which kind of then, you know, if you look at the whole tree, it's like nearly 350 gems. And what you can see on the graph is the pull requests we open every week. So the first thing you will notice is a very big spike at the beginning, and that really depends what state your repository is in. Like if you're really outdated, there's a lot of stuff to do. If you're kind of okay, then there's of course less stuff to do. And unfortunately, we cannot really, like this is something you have to get fixed, or like you have to do, and you can think about it different ways. So this team decided they really want to spend the effort, like they spend a week kind of like really going through it, right? And I actually talked to the person who was doing this on this team, and it looked like they all did them at once, but they actually applied the update, let the test run, they were doing continuous deployment, it would deploy out to production, and they would do them in very small sizes throughout the whole week. But it was still, of course, quite a bit of effort. What's interesting then is that kind of like the way it works is there's a difference between getting you up to date and like the continuous work. Like once you're up to date, it's actually a lot easier to do, like to keep that state is a lot less work than getting to that state. So it works best if you kind of make that happen and you're up to date, and then you kind of just, it's very little work going on. So if you look at these, they're like maybe 5 to 7, 8 pull requests per week. As I said, it's a pretty big Rails app. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. It was like a small one that doesn't have anything. So it is still significant of like 8 a week. It's still something to work on, right? But it's definitely not, if you compare that to a JavaScript thing, there would be a lot more going on. So the nice thing about Ruby is it is a bit more constant pace. Another concern or another thing you might be thinking is, but that's not the hard part, right? The pull request, which changes the gem file and kind of does the update for you, that's not the hard part. The hard part is there's API changes, there's deprecations, there's stuff you need to do to kind of make that update work. And actually one of the things we found out is that it's actually, people are surprised how many gems they're using where they wouldn't need to do anything to pull that update in. And there's categories of that, tooling, testing, tooling, but also a lot of gems that kind of are stable by now, right? And you kind of have a lot of trust in, and you might there's still risk in running it on production, but there's not really there's not a lot of work that needs to go into it. Of course, there's like stuff like Rails, which that's a lot of work, and we can't really help you with that, unfortunately. We were thinking about some stuff to kind of put the stuff in, but like it's really hard to help you with that because it's so depending on your app. But this is kind of like a very rough stat, but if you look at the things you have, like you can actually, for most updates, it's really just clicking that merge button on the pull request. It gets push and it gets applied, and that's it. And there's stuff like Sidekick or like, I don't know, Sentry or Rollbar clients where you don't really, there's very little risk in that, deploying that, and sometimes that gets screwed up. So there's a lot of gems that really aren't a lot of work, and you can assess the risk, right? You know what the risk is for your project, how your test coverage is, etc. The next thing, like we hear sometimes is, I don't really care about every update. Like you want to be up to date, but you don't really care about going it from version 1.2.3 to 1.2.4. Like, do I really care about it that much? Isn't there a better way? And I think actually fundamentally you don't, right? As I said before, you want this to be up to date-ish, right? Kind of, but you still, so it's quite hard to find that middle ground of kind of where do we go from here? And actually that's one of the things where what DevFu is doing right now is very much, whenever there's a new version, you get that pull request. But now we have a state where that works, and the next step, what we're really excited about, what we really want to look at is, isn't there some nice ways to not give you every update? To kind of find some heuristics, look at some data, categorize the gems, some you don't have to update all the time, and some you might do. And actually getting more of a concept of you want to be up to date reasonably, like in a reasonable thing, and you might not even want any .0 releases because there's always going to be a .1 or .2 that fixes the most important bugs, right? So maybe we wait a little bit with sending you updates instead of like giving it you right away, and you have to be the first one to fix that, not to notice it. So this is a tool that I'm building together with Jan, who was opening the conference this morning. And I think what really struck me is that this idea of doing it continuously is much more powerful than I initially thought. Like, it just sounds like it's opening pull request, that's it. But it's actually like this, if you do it all the time, similar to continuous integration, to continuous deployment, it actually really changes a bit like how you approach it and how it fits into your work. And as I said, this is a small thing we're building on the side. We're kind of trying to build a business out of it, but that's a long way. It's free for open source and public personal repos, so you can definitely try it out on those. And what we really would like is any feedback, any ideas, any concerns you have to kind of tell us, approach us, let us know if you think there's anything that resonates or that you think it doesn't work at all. Yeah, as I said, it's free for public and personal repos. You can find us at devfoo.com. If you approach us, there's a trial period if you want to use it for your private repository. So there's an easy way to try it out and see if it works for you or not. We have a few hundred people using us already, quite a few companies that really also came to us afterwards and said, like, I'm surprised that it actually solved the problem, because there were a lot of concerns about it. We have a lot of people that really care about it. What I want to say also is, if you don't care about updating dependencies, this is not going to really make you care, right? So it's still something that you have to bring into your team and kind of decide as a team to kind of approach and we can't like do the updates for you. We might if you give us a lot of money, but it's your team and your project that you're working on. So as I said, give it a try. It's very easy to try out. You don't have to put anything in your repository. You have to set up everything other than clicking those 3 screens I showed you on GitHub, and it will get started. And we're very careful. We don't spam your CI system. You will try to be very silent in the background so you can get work done. And I really think that this continuous lightweight process is something that really helps your team kind of get in a better rhythm and a better habit of taking care of something that's quite boring and thankless and that you should care about, but it's so easy to push away. Thanks.